Good morning. It is Thursday, the 12th of February. I'm Maeve McMahon, and this is Europe Today, your daily dose of European news and analysis, live here on Euronews. Coming up, EU Retreat Day is here. European heads of state and government are spending this Thursday in the middle of the Belgian countryside in a 16th century castle. Despite the beautiful backdrop, the ghosts of the past will haunt them. On the agenda, the same debate about eurobonds and a buy European rule that's been going round in circles for years. Mario Draghi and Enrico Letta will also be on site, offering their tips on how the EU can compete with the US and China. But the big debate remains over who should pay. For more on this informal summit, which in EU jargon means there'll be no formal conclusions, we're joined here in the studio by our EU News editor, Maria Tadeo, before she makes her way to that very gathering. Good morning, Maria. Just remind our viewers, what is at stake today?
Well, Maeve, it is an informal summit, but to some extent, there's very little informal about it, and it is very intentional because when we spoke with the president of the European Council, Antonio Costa, and he told us on Euronews, yes, this gathering will take place, and Mario Draghi will be invited. Of course, Mario Draghi, just to give a background, some context to our viewers, this is a man who is highly influential in the European diplomatic circles. Everyone who's important to that extent, or who's someone who would like to think I am someone in this space, in the capitals here in Brussels, but also just in the overall sphere of European policy making, reads every speech and every word that he says. So he will participate in this meeting. But going back to Antonio Costa, he told us clearly we need to come out of this with new impetus. We need clear political guidance from the capitals and the member states. Last year, we focused a lot on security. This year, we need to focus on the European economy, on competitiveness, and really bolster the single market, and that has to be intentional. So in a way, the value of this informal gathering today is the sequence that it could kickstart to reorient the European economy. We're starting to see, of course, the different groups that are emerging. Emmanuel Macron, obviously, yes, he is much weaker at home, and he's seen better times in domestic policies, but he still knows how to make a headline, how to make news, but also how to kickstart debates. He gave an interview to the European press at the start of the week saying we need now this capability, this capacity to borrow collectively. Obviously, that means eurobonds. He's putting on the table more Europe, a Europe that is able to protect. He joked yesterday, whenever you hear a French guy say protection, you go, oh, protectionism. But trust me, it's not the case. But of course, for others, it sounds a lot like my companies and Europe, and that's very much it. The other side to the story is Germany, the Belgians, also Italy on this camp, who argue, look, ultimately, these are very intellectual debates. We cannot do everything at once all the time. The way to fix the European economy is to really channel through the industry. And that means more leniency when it comes to targets, a pragmatic approach to climate, and let's just throw everything at the European industry and provide the tools they need, including lowering energy prices. So a lot more pragmatic.
Indeed. So we should expect a big battle today, just briefly.
Look, we should expect a big battle. Obviously, the question of the Eurobonds, however, it's not shocking to me because ultimately the point of this meeting is to talk about the report largely that Mario Draghi put out. The big question that he stated in this report was, if we talk about an independent Europe, what does that mean? It means it's a Europe that can protect itself with a strong economy and can set out its own policy. To do that, he said there is an investment gap of around 800 billion euros a year. The question is, how do you pay it? He talked about private and public money, but the question of the funding and the financing to that extent is inevitable. The value of this meeting is a sequence that it will kickstart. It will go into March, I'm pretty sure, and by the summer, something's got to give.
Indeed. Maria Tadeo, thank you so much for that. And of course, for more on that retreat, we'll have a live blog running all day on Euronews. Maria will be there on location with a number of other Euronews reporters. But now, while everyone here in Brussels may have heard of Mario Draghi, and he may be highly respected and regarded here, not everyone remembers exactly why he's so famous. Here's Jakub Janis with a quick refresher.
Meet Super Mario, a former Italian Prime Minister, ex-head of the European Central Bank, and a man currently spinning the threads of Europe's fate. You don't believe me? Just listen to that.
We remain merely a large market, subject to the priorities of others? Or do we take the steps necessary to become one power?
So why is this retired banker suddenly the most important man in Europe?
Level 1.
During the 2012 financial crisis, he famously promised to do whatever it takes to save the euro. And his policies saved the currency you're using now every day. But the price was high. He was the face of austerity. And if you are from Southern Europe, you know exactly the meaning behind cuts, unemployment, and a legendary battle with his nemesis, Greek minister Yanis Varoufakis. And Varoufakis wanted to end the belt-tightening measures, but our Mario simply pulled the plug on Greek banks to force a deal.
Level 2.
Fast forward to 2026. The EU is losing the competitiveness game against the US and China, but Mario's new power-up is called pragmatic federalism? Or, in translation, two-speed Europe. So, if 27 EU members cannot agree, the willing ones should run ahead, united by common borrowing to fund defense and tech. And just like in a video game, our Mario is arriving today at a real castle, Aldenbazen in Belgium. And he is on a mission to convince 27 leaders to share the credit card bill. But here is the glitch. Our Mario can write the cheat codes, but he's not the one holding the controller. The European leaders are. And remember, in a video game, if you lose, you just press restart. But in the real economy, there is no such a button. So will he do whatever it takes to save the princess? We are about to find out.
Yeah, could be honest there on how Mario Draghi may be a superhero to some, but to others, he is a man of the banks and a technocrat. For another view coming up, we will be joined by the economist and author Yanis Varoufakis, Greece's former finance minister, who had many moments with Mario Draghi while he was in office 10 years ago. Today, Yanis Varoufakis leads a left-wing pan-European political party that he co-founded back in 2016 called Democracy in Europe Movement. Good morning, Mr. Varoufakis. Thank you so much for joining us. Look, this retreat is happening today and the European Union needs new momentum to bolster competitiveness. How?
Exactly in the opposite direction of the one that they are travelling along. I'm afraid that yet again we have a summit where our great and good European leaders spectacularly fail to talk about the one thing they should be talking about. You heard all this discussion about eurobonds. This is another word for Europe borrowing money, which is something that I have been advocating now for decades. But when reasonable people have a discussion about issuing debt, shouldn't the first question be who on earth is going to be issuing the debt? Because we don't have a federal government in Europe. We have federal money. And this is our tragedy. We have a great central bank, a monolith of a central bank, and we have 20 treasuries that can't really rely on it. And at the same time, we don't have a treasury at the federal level looking after or supporting the role of the central bank. It is such a terrible design, and nobody's discussing the basic question that oozes out of Mario Draghi's report and out of what some of us have been saying now for decades. And it is this.
Have you read the Mario Draghi report?
Or not? Are we going to federate or not? That is the question. Because if they do not federate, they can't really seriously talk about eurobonds, which is, federal debt.
And have you read the Mario Draghi report, the 400 pages?
Of course.
And which camp are you in? You're clearly in the camp then who wants more Europe and not those who want to ditch the rules.
Look, I'm putting it very, very simply to my fellow Europeans. It was a mistake to create federal money without a federation. The result has been the spectacular drop in investment, the stagnation, which is causing the lack of competitiveness. So we have two choices. We are at a fork on the road. We can move in the direction of federation, or we can disband the euro. Unfortunately, the third choice is the one that our leaders are making, that is neither nor. And when you choose neither nor, you end up falling in between two stools.
So are you not in favour then of this idea of the multi-speed Europe that von der Leyen has been floating? Could it be the end of the 27 as we know it?
Mrs. von der Leyen is proving very adept at coming up with sort of phrases that sound like a solution when they are simply a manifestation of the failure.
But she's teasing another round of deregulation. The Polish are saying the same. That is the way the EU is heading inevitably. What is your view on that?
it's great. It's like rearranging deck chairs in the Titanic. Maybe they were not arranged properly. Maybe we need the regulation. But the reason why Europe is stagnating, the reason why Germany is deindustrializing, the reason why Europe is fragmenting in front of, on the one hand, the United States, and on the other hand, China, is because we haven't had any investment for 20 years. And we haven't had any investment because we have created the monetary system, the euro, which is federal in its monetary structure, but it doesn't have a fiscal and an investment dimension, pillar, to support it. So it's a very bad design. And unfortunately, our great leaders are going into a retreat in a castle with a moat, and the only one thing they will discuss is the only one thing that they will not discuss is the thing that they should discuss. Do they want to create a federal treasury and to change the structure of the European Union from a confederacy that is not working and failing Europe to a federation? That is the question.
Well, that is the big question. That is the big question they're reflecting over today in the Belgian countryside. But you're clearly not a fan of EU leadership today. But just when it comes to your leadership, when you were in office, we had an interesting question on social media from a viewer, which is quite reflective on your time in power, reflecting on the book that Alexis Tsipras wrote, saying that your proposals were often, quote, unrealistic or delusional. How do you respond, Mr. Varoufakis, to these criticisms today? And how do you assess your own responsibility for the outcomes of that period?
10 years ago, I put to Mario Draghi, to Christine Lagarde, to Wolfgang Schäuble, to the European leadership at the time, a very simple proposition. That either we could continue with socialism for the bankers, that is printing money for big business, and austerity for the many, which would cause a deindustrialization, in the end, even of Germany, or we would have to move in the direction that even Mario Draghi is now advocating. Okay. Now, not 10 years ago. And they made the wrong choice. Okay. I think I was right in what I was advocating back then.
Okay. Mr. Varoufakis, thank you so much for joining us this morning on Europe Today. See you very soon. Well, now EU leaders are locking heads, of course, on fixing the EU economy, but they're also nervous about the never-ending war in Ukraine. February 24th will mark 4 years since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine by Russia, a date that was rumoured in the media as the day President Zelensky would announce fresh elections, something he has clarified and rejected. For more, Sasha Vakalina, our Ukraine correspondent, joins me here on set. So, Sasha, President Zelensky said no elections are on the table. Tell us.
Very sharply, he said there's no intention to announce any elections or, in fact, anything political on the 24th. He also said that this is the first time he heard about it was from the media reports. He did confirm that this issue has been raised numerous times by Ukraine's partners, specifically by the United States. But he said this is not something that is floated in Ukraine. Let's take a look at what he said regarding Ukraine's intentions. He said, we are ready for elections. I said, it is very simple to do. We'll do it when all the relevant security guarantees are in place. Make a ceasefire, there will be elections. That's it. It's a matter of security. He also added that there is no link between the US security guarantees and the elections, because this is another speculation that we saw in the media reports. He said, no, the United States is not threatening to withdraw or withhold any security guarantees in exchange for the election. And he also said it's going to be very foolish to use the date of the 24th to make any political statements, Maeve.
And what about the peace talks, Sasha? Any update on the talks?
Well, they are continuing, and that's probably the best news and the best result of those peace talks. The next round is expected to be next week. The format is still to be clarified. We saw the trilateral talks, Ukraine, Russia and the United States. So this is expected to be the next format as well. But there's not much hope regarding the result. Now, Euronews sources at NATO in Brussels said, for example, that one of the main topics at the meetings this week at NATO, including the defense ministers meeting on Thursday today, is to have the better visibility regarding Ukraine Pearl program and to have the visibility from 6 months to up to 1 year. That's your answer about the expectations on the peace talks and the results.
Okay, Sasha Vakalina, thank you so much, as always, for all those updates. And as the clock ticks down to all those deadlines, the clock is also ticking to a very important date in the EU agenda. That's the Hungarian elections. Just 2 months to go until Hungary's April election, where incumbent Prime Minister Viktor Orban is running again. Viktor Orban has repeatedly clashed with EU counterparts on migration and the war in Ukraine, and this campaign is no different. Viktor Orban is planning a visit to see President Trump next week for the Board of Peace event. But meanwhile, back home, the campaign is getting heated. For more on this election and who else is running, we're joined now by Sándor Zsiros, our Hungarian correspondent. Good morning. So this election is getting quite heated. Tell us more, and who's running?
Well, surprisingly, the opposition party TISA, which is led by Péter Magyar, is leading in the polls with 7 to 10% ahead of Viktor Orbán's Fidesz party. And this is unprecedented because Viktor Orbán was in power since 15 years and his winning elections was never in question, but now we have a very, very strong and very aggressive opposition party. Nevertheless, that doesn't mean that the race is done. Fidesz can win, TISA can win. There is a large amount of undecided voters. And, the campaign is heating up. TISA party released its election manifesto, which is full of promises related to the cost of the living crisis and inflation. They promise tax cuts, they promise family benefits, pension rise, and also Viktor Orbán continues to highlight his foreign policy agenda, namely targeting Ukraine, and he went on with a very aggressive wording over the weekend. Let's maybe take a look of what he said.
Ukraine is damaging our elementary interest by constantly demanding and inciting Brussels to do so, that Hungary be cut off from cheap Russian energy. Anyone who does this is not an opponent of Hungary, but an enemy.
Viktor Orban there. And Péter Magyar, who's leading the polls, has said, quote, the governing party Fidesz could release a compromising video to discredit Viktor Orban, or to discredit him. What exactly does that mean, Sándor? And what does it say about the campaign?
Well, Péter Magyar said that there is a secretly recorded sex tape with him and his former girlfriend that the government forces are using to blackmail him. And here I have to quote Péter Magyar because he said that I suspect that they are planning to release a secret service recorded and possibly doctored recording of me and my then girlfriend having an intimate encounter. There is also a picture circulating online showing an empty room with a bed. This might be possibly related to this sex tape, but we don't know anything about this sex tape. This have not been released. We just see this picture. We don't know if this is a media hack or not, but this tells one thing, that this Hungarian electoral campaign is so special. It's so aggressive. It's going to be full of personal attacks. It's going to be full of full of hate and videos. And in the coming months we will see more and more of this. And then Prime Minister Viktor Orbán also said that in the last phase of the election, in the last days of the electoral campaigns, they will have released something on the opposition, so they will have some munition against the opposition that they are willing to use.
Okay, Sándor Zsiros, so we should expect a lot of dirty laundry to surface in the next couple of weeks and months into that election. Thank you so much for that update. Sándor Zsiros there, our Hungarian correspondent. And of course, for more on the EU leaders retreat taking place today, you can follow our live blog on Euronews. And by the way, if you're interested in the topic of managing migration, you can watch a very fiery debate from Strasbourg on the Ring. But that does bring this edition of Europe Today to an end. Thank you so much, as always, for your company. Any comments, points for us, do reach out to us either on social media or you can drop us an email, europetoday@euronews.com. That is our email address. Take care, though, and see you very soon right here on Euronews.